everybody, and welcome to episode 23 at Chicago. So it can only be the Michael Jordan episode of Angles and Attitudes. As always, he's John, I'm Mark, and today we're excited to welcome award-winning veteran news anchor from WGN, Jackie Bange. Jackie, thanks for joining us and welcome to the podcast.
Hey, Jackie.
Hello, and I think that is the very first time I have ever been compared to Michael Jordan. This is a great start.
It's game 7,
it probably only goes downhill from here. So we've hit the peak, and now we got to work our way from falling backwards there. So again, thanks for joining us. I know you just came off a newscast there, so we appreciate you fitting us in on a Sunday evening. So I'm going to jump right in, go to school in Florida, and you end up in Chicago. You came here for the weather? Is that what you're going to tell us?
You know, it's hilarious. To this day, and you know, I moved here in 1989, so long ago. But to this day, I still get that question because people will say, "Oh, where are you from?" I'll say, "Oh, I grew up in Florida." Why did you come here? I still get it after 3 decades. And well, it's a very simple answer, isn't it? Chicago is a great news market. You go from West Palm Beach, which was at the time a pretty big market. It was 50, something like that. You go from 50 to 3, you don't say no.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So even the weather does not become a deterrent at that. You don't know enough, right? At that point, everybody say, "Oh, the weather." You're like, "Nah, it can't be that bad." And then you're like,
Well, I'll tell you an interesting story because I still remember the very night I had to report, and it was snowing for the very first time. And when I felt the crunch of my snow boots, I immediately went back to the age of 8, because prior to Florida, I did spend my first 8 years. I was born in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. It immediately sent me back to that childhood feeling of snow. I'm not saying it was a great feeling, but it was just the oddest thing. And I still remember that very clearly. And yeah, every winter I wonder, what the heck did I do?
Jackie, was it 1990 where you start with NBC? I know you said you moved here in 89, but was it 1990? I saw you as a reporter for NBC.
Yeah, it was actually October 1989 when I started, but it was very, very close. It was just in time for the cold weather.
So what was that like, that moment? You know, we've talked to some athletes, some former hockey players and stuff, and you ask about that NHL moment where you realized you were in a big show. Can you kind of share with us that moment that you had when you were like, "Oh, I am not in Florida anymore"? When there was a report, they just threw you out on the street and said, "Hey, cover that. It's going to be on at 10:22. You're on your own."
Oh, I will tell you, it was a very rough start. It really was. Number one, my mind said, "Oh yeah, you've got to go. This is a number 3 market." But my heart said, "Wait a minute. I'm in West Palm Beach, Florida. I'm an hour and a half away from my folks. And I have 3 sisters. I was near my family. I don't want to go." That was my first thought, truly. But professionally, I knew that was the way to go. And I came here and I stumbled. But I finally found my footing. But by then, WMAQ said, 3.5 years. Okay, you earned your stripes. We're not renewing your contract. Go find some other place. And thankfully, WGN said yes. I really think in this business, you earn your stripes when you lose a job. And if you can find another one, you deserve to stay in this position.
Were you surprised by WMAQ's move at that time?
No, I had a really hard time. I had a lot of people supporting me, but I knew, and this is the thing about this business, it's so subjective. So when management changes, the joke is everybody puts their resume tape together, because you never know if management's going to like you and move you up, or say, thumbs down, you got to go. And that was the thing. It was a change of management. It was a combination of things. I had 3.5 years of professional work behind me. That's not a lot. And then come to Chicago. So I cannot just blame new management. I also blame myself for having some tough times. But the one good thing is I was stubborn and I was not going to leave Chicago that way. And thankfully, WGN said, I think we're going to give you a shot. And they have been stuck with me since 1992. Late 92 is when I
The
came.
good stuck.
So to that point, as an athlete, right, you got statistics. You say, okay, you won so many games, you lost so many games, you get so many home runs or whatever. How in those situations, they just say your services aren't needed? Do they give you something that says, hey, you need to work on this or that? Take us through that a little bit.
Yeah, it was a buildup. It was a buildup. I remember, and again, this was so long ago. I remember management saying, okay, why don't you come and talk to me? What's going on? It sounds like you're not too happy. So it started with that. And then it went to, well, we're going to have you get some coaching and see if we can make things better for you. And then coaching didn't work. And they're like, well, I'm sorry. That's when the management changed. And you knew it. There was writing on the wall. And it was a humbling thing, because prior to that, getting out of the University of Florida and going directly to West Palm Beach was a massive move. It really was, to go from school to 50. And then while I was in West Palm Beach, again, there was another management shakeup, and the new guys came in and said, we're going to make Jackie the main anchor. So in 3.5 years, I became the main anchor in West Palm Beach, Florida. It was inevitable something was going to go wrong. And it happened, but I survived.
Is it about ratings, Jackie? What's it about? Is it the personality, the ratings? Because when we did talk to Diane, she had brought up the same thing. What is it? What do you think it really comes down to in those
All of the above and more, honestly. Because I'll go back to that subjectivity. You could be the princess for one group of managers, and then you could be a dragon for another group of managers. But yes, ratings have a big part of it as well. I mean, it's advertising dollars. Your ratings go down. It's all about the money in many cases. But there's so many other factors involved. But those are two of the main ones.
So again, not the sports comparison, but you have this strategy that says, okay, we want our news to look and feel like this because we're missing out on a certain demographic. Do you get that,
no.
or they just?
No, that can't be said. That's a possible lawsuit, I would think. You got to be very careful, I would think. And this, I'm assuming with management, and I can tell you only from my experience, it was always, or it was like a blanket. It's just not working out. We tried, it's just not working out. You will not get anything more than that, because a lawsuit could follow. There's no doubt about that.
It just seems so, like you said, so subjective that it's almost unfair, because you're grasping it like, well, what do I need to do? It's just, well, it's not working out.
When you go into this business, and this is something they don't teach in J school, that you better be prepared. You better be prepared to start getting that skin and start thickening it, because it's not an easy business on your ego and on your moving and everything else. But we're focusing a lot on the negative. There is a lot of positive for sure. All these experiences that I was able to have that so many people will never get to have. I mean, to be a part of history. I mean, there's so many other positive things, but I mean, you take the good with the bad.
Does a WGN come calling on you in '93?
Well, a lot of this business has to do with connections as well. And one of the people I worked with at WMAQ, she ended up being the news director at WGN. So she knew me. Jennifer Schulte is her name. And she offered me a job. She said, I think you need to be hired here at WGN. So it's who you know as well.
No doubt. So
Yeah.
you go from reporter, 95 finds you being the co-anchor of the morning news. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, before that, so like 90, late 92, I was just a freelancer at WGN. Then I was signed on permanently in 93. And I actually worked, that's when I started working on the weekends with Bob Jordan. And then the morning show came and they thought, all right, the morning show needs a little sprucing up. When they start a morning show, they're going to go through the gamut of talent. And their original group, and gosh, I can't even tell you the original group. All I remember was Sonia Gant, who ended up being my co-anchor on the morning show, who was such a delight. I loved working with her. So the original group, they were working on it, didn't work out. So they try other people. And lo and behold, I was vacation relief. They liked me. They kept me. So that was a benefit. And that was great fun, the morning show. But back then, the morning show in its infancy was only 2 hours. I want to say it was from 5 to 7 or maybe 6 to 8. I really don't remember. That was so long ago. I only had it for a year because ratings weren't going up enough or they wanted to change things. And in many ways, it was a disappointment because I loved working Monday through Friday. But at the time, WGN did not have a lot of newscasts. They had a limited staff. So I remember going off the set, let's say it was from 5 to 7. I think that's what the case was. And I would work through sometimes until the 9 o'clock. It was long.
Just like anything else, Jackie, I remember though that era, watching that. WGN was trying to find its niche, and just like I thought that WGN in the morning went through an experimental stage.
Oh, many stages, and it has been perfected, hasn't it?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, I think the Monday morning newscast starts in a half hour for as long as it is.
Yeah, 4 o'clock.
Right. It's at 4
There's not much
o'clock.
time, is there? There's not much downtime for these poor news
Right.
people here.
What's going to happen from the 10 o'clock? I mean, what happens after 10 o'clock on a Sunday night until 4 in the morning, other than maybe a little bit in terms of the
Yeah,
weather
I just saw Larry Potash on the expressway.
Yeah, it's just,
Well,
it's tough to fill.
there is something going on between 10:30 and 11 o'clock. I gotta tell you about the sports half-hour show that they're now doing 7 nights a week from 10:30 to 11. So yeah, so now we have to think, okay, between 11 and 4 a.m., sadly, a lot of bad stuff happens, but you'll see it at 4.
No, and obviously we're that generation on some level, and John can attest to this. We grew up on GN, whether it was on the radio or it's funny because we have to scroll really far down on the drop downs to get our birth years, and we'll just leave it at that.
I'm with you.
Right. And again, we can't ask a lady her age, but we all understand where we're coming from. But
60
we're
and proud.
there you go. Well, John, are you there yet, John?
Yeah, I'm there.
60?
I want
I'm
you
the
guys to
kid.
know that I'm the oldest in the group.
I'm the kid. I got to wear a seatbelt on my chair. I'm the kid here still. So, but you kind of go from listening and watching it when your parents watch it, go, oh, we have to watch this. And then when you have kids, you listen for school closings and you're like, holy, I became my parents. And you're like, right, you can't do that. And now it just comes full circle again. It's amazing how you grow up with that. Do you think there's still that ability in news today to create that? Heritage might be a wrong word, but I think you know where I'm going with that you grew up on it, and it's your home, it's your place you go to kind of get grounded again as far as that goes.
To be honest with you, things are changing too much. They're evolving way too much. And everybody, I mean, look at the example of the Olympics. How many people watched it on television? More people watched it on their iPhones and their computers. And there's no turning back. That's how the news is going to be as well. That's how the news is now. I remember our news director telling us, maybe 15 years ago, okay, you see this set in our television studio? It's actually a venue to social media. TV news on television, the ratings are going further and further down. That's just the way it is. So TV news is evolving and working with websites and everything else, Twitter, social media. I'm afraid I'm in the back seat with that stuff. I've got to work on that a little better.
Well,
So it's safe to say that since the days of WPEC, you've seen a lot of changes.
I still remember, of course, I still remember having, an audio guy and a camera guy or girl with you all the time. Now, not so much at our station. They're one-man bands. The reporters are doing the video as well as doing the reporting. Things have changed significantly.
And there's no script. Everybody just reads whatever. They do a live shot in front of police headquarters, and they have a big iPhone and they just read all their details. And the other part that gets me, and I don't know about you, John, but everybody looks about half our age or younger than our children.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, I got to tell you, in general assignment reporting, which I did for 20 plus years, if they asked me to go out and do it again, it would be very hard. That is for the young. It really is wearing. I mean, just tonight, hours before we started speaking, 2 little girls were shot at, 1 killed. How can you continue to follow that on a regular basis and not let it get to you? It is difficult. It really is difficult.
The emotions have to run wild, Jackie. I've always wondered about that. You just gave me goosebumps, so I just can imagine.
Oh, it's so hard. It's so hard. And you want to tell the right story about what happened. That oftentimes, almost every time, means you seek out family members because you want to know about the victims. And sometimes they just shock you and welcome you and give you pictures and tell you all about this poor person who just passed away, their loved one. Others will kick you out the door. And this is a daily thing for general assignment reporters, whether it's television, whether it's radio, whether it's newspaper, whatever it is, it's grinding.
Well, let's go on a positive. During the
You
time,
keep
like
going negative. Sorry.
I know, I'm sorry.
Yeah, positive.
It must be our age group or whatever. But like during the Bulls or the Blackhawks or the Cubs or the White Sox winning, did you ever get thrown out in any of those for assignment reporting into those mosh pits and have to punch a drunk guy in front of Wrigley Field to keep him out of your live shot?
Goodness gracious, I could tell lots of stories on that. Highlights were being turned down by Michael Jordan after he did over 50 points. I was waiting there at the Berto Center. For some reason, nobody else was there. I don't know why. And out comes Michael Jordan. I'm like, Mr. Jordan, can you comment on your performance or whatever? I just babbled something, and he very kindly was like, no, I've had a long day. No, I got nothing from it, but I got to see Michael Jordan. So sometimes, especially with the running of the Bulls for so many years, the news overlapped with sports and you could cover it. And I remember constantly covering the White Sox on their road to the World Series and doing feature stories on that. You got so into it. It was so much fun. Same thing with the Cubs. I remember standing on the live truck because you didn't want to be with the crowd. It was too crazy. There were too many people who could throw beer at you and so on and so forth. And I was climbing up to the live truck, getting ready to do my live shot for the Cubs right outside Wrigley. And some guy took a picture from up there, from my let's just say my backside, and he kept telling everybody, I got Jackie Bange's backside.
Oh,
The things you don't hear about, right?
No,
Right.
it unfortunately it takes all kinds, and not all of them have the same sensibilities that we would all hope for. So maybe the whole White Sox trail, and I know John's a big White Sox fan because we know that they've pronounced a time of death on the Cubs for at least the next couple of years.
Yeah.
So that White Sox train, she's a rolling again. So maybe every once in a while you'll be able to enjoy that as well. You
Yeah.
talk about the change in the way news is consumed, and we got the same sort of things from Mark and Diane. Are there things that you would like to do now, like podcast type of news, a little longer form, where like you did the reporting after Katrina, and be able to do more of those things where you can dig in and have a longer form and not that 45-second bit before the commercial?
Yes, and they've been really good to me about that because you guys, I have a unique schedule in any kind of television uh, area. I have for the last 14 years only worked weekends, and that was because I had gotten married late in life, had kids late in life, and when I had my youngest kids, they're twin baby girls, I asked my boss, "Can I please go part time?" And he was so good to allow me to do that. So the deal was that I'd still anchor the weekends. I'd be off Monday through Friday, but if I had story ideas or election night, I love covering election night, they would bring me back in. So it's frankly up to me to be able to come up with these stories. And if they accept it, then they'll let me do it. So yes, that is what I'm doing. Let's see, the last one I did was a couple of weeks ago, and it was about an 89-year-old mother and her daughter who kind of were on the outs until recent years because the daughter was having health issues, and they decided that they wanted to bond by jumping out of an airplane. So I did a story on that.
Mark brought up something, Jackie, that I'd like to go back to, the Katrina thing. What do you remember about that Into the Darkness with the pilots?
Oh, you read up on that bio. That was really thanks to the helicopter pilot. So Katrina hit, and as you recall, from all over the nation, rescuers came, whether by helicopter, by boat, by whatever. And there was a local guy that we interviewed after he came back from Katrina. He happened to pilot a rescue helicopter, and I was just asking him, well, how do you pull people from the water when you can't land from your helicopter? And he basically kind of explained to me, and I said, well, can we try it? Can I kind of recreate it? And he kind of looked at me and went, you sure you want to do this? And I said, yes, belt me in. And he basically flew in a big circle as I kind of leaned out over the helicopter with a microphone and explained, this is how they rescued the people. So he was a good guy for letting me do it, but it kind of made for a pretty good video, and it showed exactly what they had to do.
For sure.
Thank God he was a good pilot, right?
Yeah, well, we're not doing this interview right now if he's not. We got a lot of that airspace if he wasn't a good pilot there. So, but
that's another example of the positive thing in this business. There are a lot of negatives, but who else would have this great opportunity to recreate something like that and to tell the story? I mean, that's what keeps reporters going. I think they love to tell stories and tell it fairly and tell it concisely and as best as they can. That's what keeps me going for sure.
So obviously the last 18 months plus, excuse me, not talking negative again, but obviously the way the news is covered and the amount of news, do you feel, how did you feel about how things are being covered now? I know we're all categorized as old school and everything is new school. Do you find that it's changed you, or do you kind of that stubbornness you talked about earlier, you kind of gone kicking and screaming into that next group of reporting, or the way the news is reported now?
Well, I don't know if there's an easy answer for that one. I think it's disheartening, certainly, to see the divisiveness in the country and to report on that. And I think that we have to be much more attentive to what we say, how we say it, so that we don't make it worse. We need to make sure that we just report the facts, do it as fairly as possible. It is more important than ever in this day and age because of the heightened anxiety, the anger, like I said, the divisiveness. I think in its simplest form, we need to be more on our toes and be more responsible and really pay attention to what we are doing, and presenting in the news. And I will say that's a challenge in of itself, but it makes it even harder when we're doing an hour of news, an hour and a half of news, and 2 hours of news, and 3 hours of news. Things can get lost when you've got so much time that you have to fill. So I think that's the main point: is be careful, be responsible.
Jackie, do you feel like you've had to change your style from the inception of when you did it to now? Is it a feeling now, let's say in the last year, of walking on eggshells, like what you just said, or how do you feel now you present it in your own way? You come to work saying, okay, I know you got to be careful, but has your style changed in your opinion?
I think we get some guidance on what to say and what not to say, and I want to think of something specific, and I can't think of anything specific, so it's not overwhelming. This is a terrible example, but I remember because of the Olympics, and because NBC was the station that had it, we could not have the rings on the Olympic rings on our show. So there's certain rules on that. That doesn't help with the divisiveness and all that. That's the only thing I can think of right now. But I would say, as far as style goes, I sure wish maybe someday soon that we'll end with the breaking news. Kind of tired of saying breaking news, because sometimes the breaking news isn't really breaking,
Well, that's fair, but like you said, on the flip side, if you've got 90 minutes to fill, you just can't call it another news story, right? It's got to be breaking. It has to be
It's development.
energy, right?
Development.
Even you watch on ESPN, there's a program alert or a score alert. Well, the score changed. Yeah, that happens in a baseball game, but it's not. We don't need to have red flags all around it. So, all right, we're going in another direction. I need the story behind the handshake with Robert Jordan during your commercial.
I know,
Oh yeah,
Bob.
the jive.
Oh my gosh, he is the most amazing guy. We keep in touch. He retired, but we keep in touch. We go out to lunch. I don't know, I'd say every couple of months. But I just to give you background, it is unheard of to have a team together for 21 years. And that's what we had on the weekend team. Not only Bob Jordan, Robert Jordan, but Jim Ramsey and Rich King. We were together for 21 years. That's unheard of. And Bob is, I can't say enough about him. He's like a Renaissance man. And then he turns into this little bratty 6-year-old. So he'll know all of this stuff. And then he'll say, I know you are, but what am I? So it was Bob who started this. It was Bob, even though we kind of argue over how this came to be, the handshake, what I call the hand jive. But I remember it as many, many, many years ago, they didn't have on the introduction to the news, the WGN News with Bob Jordan and Jackie Bange. They never had our pictures. All of a sudden, they put our pictures on. And that's what started it. When it said Robert Jordan, he went, ah. When it went Jackie Bange, it went, ah. And then we started having fun with that. And then we started doing first the Three Stooges thing. And once we could do that, we thought, let's add something. And every time, almost every weekend, we would add something. And if we forgot something, we weren't allowed to add something. And the things we added were news related or something goofy. I remember Dick Cheney, who accidentally shot somebody in the hunting accident. Remember that? So that was one of ours. Yeah, yes. We had a.
But it's a great YouTube. I mean, when you go to YouTube and you watch it, I mean, I know you guys had to rehearse it, but meaning in the sense of, you know, look, things you added to it, it's fantastic.
I know. It went past the first break and into the second break. It was ridiculous. But it was also a stress reliever because, as you probably figured out since you've watched the news for many, many years, that first block of news between the beginning and the first commercial, that's the hard stuff. That's the tough stuff. So once you're done with all the sadness and toughness, it was just like, okay, here we go. And I just was a little kid along with Bob.
Well, you were, when you quoted all those guys, you know, Jim Ramsey, Rich King, and all those guys, you were the little kid in that group of that. There's some years of experience in that group, no doubt about it.
Good point, because all of a sudden, first of all, it was Rich who left. He retired. And then Bob left, who shocked me. And then Jim Ramsey left. So here I was, the youngest of the four. And I find myself the old lady now on the weekends.
No, we're as young as we feel. There's no problem there.
That's for
There
sure.
you go. Well, the young guys and gal accept me, so that's good.
That's good. All right. So you said young guys. Do you have any interaction? We'll just go off topic again. Is Paul Conrad on-air persona the same as off-air? Just
He's
kind of
actually much more quiet in person.
okay.
Well,
yeah.
You wouldn't think, yeah.
He's always been witty. He's always been like that. But he's a quiet guy. He's a very dedicated family guy. Honestly, I don't see the morning folks as much as I'd like because I'm weekends only. But when I'd come in for stories and see him in the morning, it's always a delight. It's a great group of people. Frankly, it's a great place to work. And I'm not just saying that if the bosses watch. It's unique. It's a good place to work.
But there's still
Jackie.
Go ahead,
sorry, Mike. Jackie, any coming out of Lancaster, Pennsylvania, or any early mentor on the national scale that, you know, maybe you could say, you said, I want to be like this person on the news? Was there an early mentor?
Yeah, my dad.
Okay. I had the same thing. Yeah. I think Mark does too.
Yeah, he was. Can I leave for a second and I'll bring back a photo? Hold on one second.
Sure.
Nice question,
Okay.
John.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Oh, some more visuals.
Okay.
Excellent.
I don't want.
Oh, wow.
That is
Perfect.
my dad. If you can see him, I'm not doing a very good job.
There's Sunday Newsweek.
And there's my mom. She was the weather girl. Dad was the anchor. I'm the little blonde seated on mom, my oldest sister, getting
You haven't changed.
They were both on the news at WGAL in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. And mom left, took care of the kids, and dad got a job in Miami and was an anchor there. So yeah, I grew up in the broadcast family.
Wow. That's something special.
That's a great picture.
Yeah, isn't it great? It was a TV guide.
Yes, they come in the newspaper, I remember. Sure.
Yep,
Yeah.
exactly. So yes, dad was the main mentor. And frankly, I did not get into the business right into college because dad never took work home with him. But at the end of his career, I remember him coming home frustrated over something I don't remember, and him saying, don't ever get into this business. You work weekends, you work holidays. And by then I was like, oh, I really want to do it. And when I got into it, they couldn't have been more proud.
He was right, though. That's
yeah, right.
exactly. All right. So John, Jackie's been great with her time. I'm going to give her a wrap up and then you give her a wrap up. So you get 3 people to go to dinner with, and they can't be any member of your family. 3 people to go to dinner with, and why?
Well, let's stick with the Michael Jordan, because he was such an institution and an icon here. Because I covered Barack Obama on both nights when he won the election, I will say Barack Obama. And my buddy Carol Marin, who I haven't seen in a long time.
Okay. Wow. Those are
3
3.
great ones.
That's who picks up the check.
Barack Obama.
Well, Michael Jordan's got a few nickels stashed away somewhere too.
They can fight him.
Yeah, but that's some pretty high-powered stuff. And John, I'm stealing your thunder. Carol Marin, very serious or not like you see her on the news?
I loved working with Carol. I loved working with Carol. When we would co-anchor together, she and I just got along very well. I really enjoyed working with her. Certainly when I first came to WMAQ, I was entirely intimidated by her. But she couldn't be more helpful, more kind, more friendly.
Excellent.
Yeah, definitely.
John, I pass the baton to you.
Yes, Jackie, I have to say I've been a long time follower of WGNU since I was a kid. I go back to the days of Jack Taylor and Carl Grayson. And I'll tell you, for some reason, I've always watched Channel 9 News. And I do remember when you came to WGN. And I have to be honest with you, my wife is a Channel 7 lady. So especially on the weekends, I get to watch you on Saturday and Sunday nights. By the way, are you going to be on tonight at 10 o'clock, 9 o'clock?
9 and 10, you got it.
Yeah, but I'll say I've always been a WGN person. I just think the station is not a sensationalism thing. Since I was a kid, because the Blackhawks were on, the Cubs were on there, the White Sox were on there. But I have to tell you, this lady that recommended you for Channel 9, it really, truly, after listening to you today, it fits the mold of these people from that era. Meaning, for me, Jack Taylor was something else. He was iconic for that station. Grayson, they used to have a show called Night Beat late at night that I used to stay up and watch with my dad with Marty McNeely. And I have to tell you, just when I see you now, and of course, one thing before I let this go, the chemistry you had with Robert Jordan was amazing. Okay. And now I see it with Tamon Bradley. And chemistry is huge in anything. Of course, Mark and I play sports, but Jackie, I have to tell you, thank you for coming on Angles and Attitudes. And when you answered that text that day, you blew my mind. I was so happy that you wanted to do this interview with me and Mark, and you're a true class act and a professional lady.
Has my head grown yet? Because I feel like
it's blocking the studio over there.
Yeah, that's very kind.
I mean it. Thank you. This was an honor today.
Well, oh goodness, please don't say that. My kids will laugh at you. Well,
our kids laugh at us, so it's only fair.
Yeah.
It was a joy. You guys are fun. You guys are a lot of fun. Thank you for talking with me.
Well, we appreciate it. And the truth is that, as John just said, we have 60 plus years of marriage between the two of us, and our wives have pretty much stopped listening to us. So we've had to go out and branch out.
Yeah, I didn't finish my honeydew list.
Yeah, find other people to listen to us. So you were just absolutely a lot of fun. So thank you very much for your time, and continue to stay well. And we'll look forward to watching you at 9 and 10 on the weekends.
All right, you be good now.
We want you to come back one day again.
Okay, it's a deal.
All right,
Thanks,
take care.
Jackie.
Thank you.
Bye.